So thanks for joining us. Hope everyone's caffeinated, hydrated. I know we've all got flights to catch, but appreciate everyone. We've got I think a good fun session for you. So I'm Amanda McAllister, Creative Director at ChangeUp. We are a brand experience agency, so based in Dayton, Ohio. So everything we do is brand led. We have a multidisciplinary team, broad range of offerings, everything from strategy to innovation to brand creation, and then really our bread and butter is physical environment, and then through to execution, so architecture, engineering, but like I said, branded environment, and really brand activation, which is a fancy way of saying store design, but I say brand activation because we in this room as retailers, store designers, vendors, I think, we all know that store design is so much more than a box full of product on the shelves, especially today. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is really like, what does the store need to do? What is today's customer needing, feeling, thinking? It's kind of a wild world out there, but I think a very exciting time to be in retail design. So enough about me, a little ChangeUp plug, but kind of go around the table here, let our fantastic panelists introduce themselves, a little background, kind of who you are, and then we'll dig in.
Fantastic, thanks Amanda. I'm Kirby Mindell. I'm the Global Director of Retail Design for BP, yes, as in the oil company. I manage a global concept studio that's looking at the future of the energy, mobility, and convenience network. So anything from traditional fuel service stations with convenience stores to our emerging businesses like EV charging hubs and hydrogen fueling and low carbon truck depots, and what sort of amenities and on-site experience are we going to start offering our growing and increasingly diverse customer base. So we have kind of opened the floodgates in terms of what we are looking at as a brand in terms of what the future could hold. So really excited to discuss this topic today.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lionel Sussman. I lead the design team at Capital One for in-person experiences. That is really focused on our cafe concepts, as well as our branches, and also the airport lounges. I've been with Capital One only for a year. Before that, I spent most of my career at Marriott doing hospitality design. And before that, I was with Starbucks for 5 years in Seattle. And most recently with Amazon for a couple of years. Super excited to be here.
Good morning, I'm Dean Hansbecker. I'm the Vice President of Retail for Indochino. We're a made-to-measure suiting brand in Canada and the US, 54 doors across, hopefully 55 by the end of the day. Fire inspection, hoping will pass finally. We've really taken a different approach to apparel retail because we came from online first. So we made the shift to bricks and mortar, unlike so many of you in the room that have made the transition over the last 10 years the opposite way. It had some advantages, it had some disadvantages, trying to fight with a bunch of people to tell them we're not actually an internet company. We're a retailer, we sell clothing, we're in the fashion business. Was certainly a big jump for them when I joined. But today, we're 75% bricks and mortars, 25% online. So really made the change there. Prior experience working around the world with a variety of brands, predominantly in Europe, but in Canada and the US as well. I'm really excited to be here and talk about this subject that's near and dear to my heart.
Amazing. All right, well, I want to start with a big thought around kind of retail in general. So we've heard, retail's dying, AI is going to change everything, this digital age upon us. And while, some of that is true, I think we, especially here, know that retail is absolutely not dying, right? It is, in fact, going through its biggest renaissance yet, but it's evolving, and, brands have to evolve. Your customer is changing at the most rapid rate yet, but, it doesn't mean let's just be more digital for the sake of being digital. Like, let's really dig in, figure out what your customers want, like what's actually going to bring them into a brick and mortar. What can we offer? How can we evolve that physical experience that they're getting something really unique out of it and being able to keep them coming back? So curious, maybe Lionel, if you want to kick us off, what's bringing consumers in, or what do you think we need to do
Sure.
to kind of keep them coming back?
Yeah, I think the word is overused, but it is all about experience. I loved hearing about Petco and Dick's yesterday and how amazing those new concepts are for them. And I feel that's becoming a little bit of the norm. And in this post-COVID world, more than ever, people are looking to interact with humans. We do a lot of research, and it clearly shows that customers are willing to travel even long distances for a true, really well-designed experiential retail. For us at Capital One, in our cafe space, the biggest challenge is the repeat customer. Most of our customers love the concept. They come once, but they don't return. So today we're really focused on how to create an experience that enables that repeat customer. And we know that when they come, what it does for the brand awareness, brand love, conversion is pretty remarkable. And a lot of our customers don't know about Capital One Travel, about Capital One Shopping. So we're going to use those stories and create really engaging visual merchandising experiences that you can experience both physically but also with your phone to really engage them and bring them back.
It's almost like educating with that extended service offering.
Yeah.
in
Educating
store,
and getting them excited to
Yeah.
come see us. Yeah.
Love that. Any other big thoughts there?
No, I mean, I visited a Capital One lounge when I was in Santa Monica the other day, and I mean, it's an amazingly new place for a financial bank brand to be in that you walk in and no one's pushing product or service at you. They're inviting you into their brand's vision for the future of how they want to interact with you, and it's a really, really unique dwell time experience.
Yeah. I mean, dwell time, glad you bring that up. I feel like all three of your brands are like really leaning into dwell time as we think about physical space and how can we, capture people's time in a meaningful way and that they want to spend time with the brand. I wonder, Dean, do you want to chat on that?
Well, to place an order with us takes about an hour working with a style guide. We refer to our salespeople as style guides, and they're leading them through the process. So first of all, the hiring has to be on point. So you have to have an engaging personality to spend that much time with the client. It's not quick and transactional. And the space becomes secondary in many ways to the interaction with the style guide. Our dwell times, to increase them is a disadvantage to our business just for efficiency. So we want to do all we can within that hour, appointment-based, so we can then be ready for the next client. A little bit different than some.
Yeah, that's such an interesting point about the staff you hire and then the people you bring on board to represent your brand. I mean, we were talking yesterday with Sprouts and Hibbett talking about how a lot of them are just 18, 19-year-olds who have no interest really in creating and curating experience. But if you can really find that staff that believes in the brand, believes in customer engagement, and gets excited about helping customers, I mean, that is really game-changing in store.
Yeah, and also providing, for us, it's all about dwell time. So we think about everything from, if you think about the cafe design, where the handoff is for the coffee, we actually put it in a location where our ambassadors are actually close by, so that when people are waiting for their coffee, it's a natural conversation. And then our team also designs the interaction tools, so they use these iPads, and that tool and how, not just the digital part of the tool, but also the type of seating they're going to have to connect with the customer side by side. All those details are so critical. The staff is so critical, but how we design an experience for the customer, but also for the staff, is so critical to be successful in that dwell time.
Yeah. Yes, that physical adjacency. I think, beyond physical, right, is everyone's sort of living in this digital world right now and, managing that consumer journey from pre to, in store to then post journey. I wonder, I know, Dean, we were sort of chatting earlier around how you guys are managing that seamless flow. Like people come into your store and they're like, hey, I saw this online. And then you have staff members like scrambling to keep that seamless journey for them. What do you?
Professionally and personally, it's a pet peeve to find something online and then go into the store and not only can you not find it, but no one that seemingly works there can find it either. And it's a constant challenge with us as well. A client is ready to purchase. They've made their choice. They've shopped online. They've done the research. It should actually be that much easier to serve them. And then we hit the roadblock of where is that fabric so I could show you the physical example of it. We've started to use digital tools, but it comes back to training. Again, not so much the physical space in some ways as the training piece of it. We have invested a lot of time in explaining the whys and wheres of the visual merchandising so that intuitively, oh, it should be with this. Even if they're not familiar with that one of 300 fabrics, it should be logically adjacent to that, and they can find it a little faster. We are using QR codes on our tags. We're experimenting with different things to be able to pull the information up from the samples to confirm what it is they're looking at is what it is they're looking for on the website. Compare that one-to-one with the iPad standing next to the client. Tools like that have certainly helped reduce the friction, but I know that there's tools yet to come that are going to improve that still. And for many of you in other categories, being able to explain to a client before they've come into the store where it's going to be in the store. The biggest of boxes do such a great job of that. Now, how do we expand that to others?
Yeah, I sort of internally, we speak about not like breaking the spell, right? So you've captured someone's attention online or through social or in some way to engage with your brand, and then they've made a very intentional choice to come into your physical space. So how do we just not break that magic spell, right? With the idea of frictionless, sort of seamless continuity. I know Lionel Capital One's a mobile first bank, so this is probably a huge area for you and how you guys do that.
Yeah, and I think we're getting started. I was thinking last night, phygital, I hate the word.
I know.
But it is upon us. It reminds me a little bit of, hear me out here, it's a little bit of a stretch, but what sustainable design, what was happening 15 years ago when if you were doing it, it was like a big deal and like you would talk about it. Now everyone is doing it because it's become a standard. So the idea of a digital design and a physical design and being separated, for me, those days are over. So we're actually putting our teams together and really looking at the experience end to end together as one team. And I think in 10, 15 years, it's going to be the standard, just like sustainability is today. So it's a big space for us. We are like being a mobile first company, and that's really our bread and butter. But we also really believe in the power of physical. So we're doing anything from very straightforward concepts like cardless ATM, so being able to go to an ATM and use your phone to get cash. But we're also experimenting with something we're calling lifestyle placements, which is a super interactive visual merchandising experience that allows you to just not look at products, but use your phone, or we're looking at some other devices to interact with the objects through QR codes and some other technologies.
That's fun. Like what sort of objects? Will you paint a
We're actually piloting right now, but imagine just like a beautiful wall with art and screens and different objects and objects that you could potentially buy, objects that there might be a giveaway, but there's like a whole digital experience that is designed with that amazing wall.
And are you capturing like consumer sort of lifestyle, like profiles that are some of your
yeah. I mean, we have
consumer types.
Totally, we have like a core consumer group that is the core of Capital One, and that's what we're going after. But again, it's really about bringing them back. We also don't want to become too salesy. So like the nice thing about the Capital One cafes is that they feel like an environment that you can just come in and hang out. So we're trying to find the balance of those two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I know dwell time.
Hey, it's early.
Listen.
Coffee hasn't kicked in.
Was something we were chatting about. BP's going through wild innovation efforts, some of which ChangeUp is fortunate to have a little hand in. But yeah, how are you guys thinking about how your consumers are using your space?
Yeah, I mean, we're going through some things, a lot going on. I'd say what's most interesting about the mobility and convenience space to me is it's a destination product that can't necessarily go online. So you need to come to our sites to fuel, or you need to come to charge. Now, charging is a lot more fluid of a product. You can do that at home. But we are talking a lot about how and where we engage with customers, and this idea of time. What do we ask customers to do with their time? So in our current business, you've got customers fueling on a service station for 3 to 5 minutes. Maybe they pop in the store, get a Coke, some chips, use the bathroom, and then get out. And it's a very efficient experience. We want to get them in and out as fast as possible. With our business now moving into EV charging, it flips that entire paradigm where now we have customers on site for 20 or 45 minutes. So many retailers would kill for that kind of captive customer time. But it's less about, it's not a conversation on how do we get more product in front of them? How do we get them to buy more food? It's about what other missions in their day that they were going to complete after they visit our site can we now help them complete while they're on our site? So again, it's not about saving them time, efficiency. It's about how do we create time in their day when they're not interacting with our brand. It's a much more subtle approach to kind of true convenience, is maximizing dwell time, not from sales, but from almost, freedom in their life outside of our site. So a lot of interesting things. We're exploring a million different avenues. As ChangeUp knows, we kind of gave them a blue sky brief to pitch us anything. But yeah, lots of opportunity in extended dwell time.
Man, convenience. That word is so loaded, and I feel like it's changing like quite a bit recently what that means. I think classically you think of the word convenience and you think of, quick. Like I want to be in and out, right? I want that like very quick sort of touch and go experience, and I think that's shifting a little bit in task stacking and even just taking stress out of people's lives. Like, yeah, what does convenience mean to you guys? And then I'd kind of love to hear from all of you within your unique industries and what you think it means for the future.
Yeah, I mean, for BP, obviously we've been doing convenience for decades.
Right.
And it's interesting, where convenience stores actually started was kind of to fill that gap when the grocery store wasn't open on a Sunday and you had to pop in and get something as a distress purchase, or you were on a long road trip and you kind of had to go in. And it's been evolving slowly and slowly, especially over the last, I'd say, 5 years. I mean, over the last 3 years, convenience stores were considered kind of mission critical facilities in retail. They had to remain open. They had to be somewhere where customers could go. So, I mean, it's a little bit about, it's not just eliminating, friction and making it feel easy. It goes back to that, what do our customers need to do in their daily lives that we can make as painless as possible? It's about removing that effort, not just making the actual experience and transaction easy and easy for them to go in and quick to navigate, find product, but how do we remove an entire mission out of their daily life and their daily journey? So convenience is going to continue to evolve. Obviously, with how convenient, digital apps and products are, it's that balance of what do you do kind of in store to help remove some of those barriers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I wouldn't necessarily associate convenience with buying suits, but one of our value offers is that as a profile is built for our clients, it's dialed in. You've come in, you've made your alterations, we've captured those on your profile, and now if you want to order a second suit, it's just about going online, going through the customization process, and it showing up 2.5, 3 weeks later. It is a value that ready-to-wear can't offer. And when we sell into clients, we want to share with them that convenience, that offer. A lot of our clients are very young and new to suiting. They're coming to us oftentimes because they have to. They're part of another wedding party. Their groom decided to get all of the suits from us, and here they are on our doorstep for the first time ever. Now to capture them as repeat clients is clear. The hope is that we can continue to make that online ordering process that much more convenient. We see it, online sales on a holiday are through the roof. This is what the guy is sitting home doing when he's not working. He's re-upping, and men are great that way because once they found something that they like, they tend to buy a second and a third of it. Convenience.
Yeah, I think that level of, data collection and profiling, like sort of liquid expectations that you get across category where at this point, like I just expect brands to know me in a way that, I can one click online, something's there. I also want to walk into a space that, if I'm a repeat customer, of course, not the first time, but when you walk in, you're like, I do want you to know me. So I think that's huge. And that is such a big convenience standpoint. Yeah.
I think for us, convenience is all about our financial services. So we have to ensure that when you need something, finances are such a sensitive, delicate subject, and we're so heavily regulated that for us it's all about always having access to those financial services. We just we're currently piloting. One of the biggest issues we had was in our cafes was that you cannot get a cashier's check, which, as you all know, a cashier's check is not something that you don't get every day, but when you need it that day. So we are currently piloting an actual machine that you can go in and get a cashier's check by yourself, a self-serve machine. But it's taking a little longer. It's such a regulated industry that it's tough. But for us, convenience is about ensuring that everything you need when it comes to your bank accounts and credit cards is taken care of if you come to a cafe.
But that sort of like problem solving is so clutch, right? So when we talk about what your customers really need, love that. You guys saw a problem. You're like, we'll just invent a whole new machine.
Yeah.
Bravo. Yeah, I think, as a designer, I get always a little kind of down when we're working with people and it's incremental change, little crawling steps toward the future, which I get it. There's ROIs, there's, boards to be pleasing. There's only so much money to go around, but curious around, just inventing new technology or taking some really, big swings to make your customer happy and ultimately, increase revenue. Any thoughts around, because for me, I'm like, the days of incremental change are over, like, let's go. But also, I get it's a real world out there. Any thoughts around sort of that incremental versus like bigger swing change? I'm kind of open-ended here.
Yeah, I mean, we do both.
Yeah.
So, I mean, our business is so complex. When we talk about disruption, I always talk about there's kind of reactive disruption, which is a need has been identified from outside your organization, or there's an issue that is somewhat outside of your control, whether it's, regulations or policy, government, the damn permits delaying something. I mean, there's always something that you have to react to. So reacting to that is just change management, how you respond. When we talk about disruption and innovation, I always think about, understand where you want to be as a brand. So when we, started hearing about, just walk out technology and autonomous stores, we had a lot of conversations internally, like, is this the time where we go into that? Do we want to be first to market? Do we want to kind of own that and differentiate? Or do we want to let others kind of test it out, see how it goes, and then we'll fall in line and kind of react and see how it fits into our business? So now we're kind of a few years into that. We're starting to look at piloting a few concepts of that in select markets. The other flip side of disruption for me is really, really proactive disruption, where you know your business, you know the market, you see where things are going, you see where the threats to your business are, and you get ahead of it. So for BP, 3 years ago, we completely flipped our strategy on its head and said, okay, traditional fuels need to go away. We need to find cleaner energy. We need to find better solutions for our customers, for the countries we're in, for the world. How do we get ahead of that? So we said, okay, is it the right time that everyone needs a new EV charging network? No, but they will. We're going to get ahead of it. We're going to flip our entire business. We're going to restructure. We're going to lean into new experiences that we will lead the pack in disrupting ourselves. And that's a phrase that I really like, is like, go disrupt yourself. Just know exactly where your brand is ready to disrupt itself. And there's excitement with that. That's risk, but there's also, it's just managing change. So it's just a matter of when you want to manage it. If you can get ahead of it and manage change on large scale, as you said, on your own terms, going to be a little bit easier for your teams to palate. It's going to be easier to sell to your executive team. It's going to be easier to get finance on board when you can 3 months ahead of it, actually give them a plan and the CapEx requirements, rather than saying, we're panicking, we have to react to this thing that's happening in the market, we urgently need CapEx to go change things in stores. So it's about really, really understanding your priorities and your appetite for changing things quickly.
Yeah, so important. Yeah, I think about, you guys have done so many new concepts and just completely changing what a branch functions as. Like, how are you selling that in? How are you, proving out that this concept's going to work, or hey, maybe it won't? What's our risk sort of analysis there?
I was thinking about the conversation with about Dix yesterday, and how their CEO asked them to design a competitor. Was it like a competitor across the street that will kill their business? I thought that perspective was super interesting. I think in general, I think as leaders in the retail space, we always have to be thinking that way. What if someone better than you opens across the street?
Yeah.
So for us, the innovation in the digital side, we've been pretty successful, and our app is always number one, number two, and we are in a good space there. When it comes to physical, that was part of what myself and a few others have been brought in, where we have a lot of room to grow. And for me, like Tony from Dix was saying, seeing is believing. So we are setting up. We didn't have a lab space, so we're setting up a lab space where we can do quick prototyping, where we can bring executives and letting them see and touch and feel.
Okay. Yeah.
That for me has, I've been in a few companies now, and that you cannot argue with that. When you can bring a customer, we actually bring customers to lab spaces, and you can show them, and you can get real life feedback, and it shows that it will drive business, that it will drive for us conversion, which is like a big metric for us. Executives tend to be all in. And then as designers, I think sometimes we have a hard time getting into spreadsheets and all those things, but we have to do a little bit of that and get our toes dipped in that space, so we can talk to the finance people and talk to those people making the financial decisions.
Yeah. That's true. It is an interesting balance between like data and analytics and the insights you can run with customers on panels and interviews, and throw people in a conference room and ask them what they feel about it. But I mean, if you're doing food innovation, you don't know if that burger is going to work until that customer tastes that burger. So I think things like the lab spaces to get your internal teams in and excited and actually experiencing what you're asking them to invest in is so critical if you're trying to innovate quickly.
And I think that 3D aspect is so crucial, because you're right, like getting stats on paper is one thing, but then really truly experiencing something. Like we've built mock-ups out of cardboard, like as lo-fi as that, and and then you've got VR, so you can like really experience that way. But yeah, an innovation lab is like every brand should have one of those, because they really do work as a beautiful sell-in tool. Indochino, I mean, you guys are disruptors in and of yourselves, just with your offering.
Well, I just want to preface by saying, when I hear swing for the fences, I also, maybe it's age, there's like caution flag. Just to brief a design team with, let's go wild, swing for the fences, is maybe to end up with a rocket ship in the center of your store, which is really fun for the first week or the first month, but what do we do then? This is one of our showrooms here. Second generation, I would say, but more or less the way in which we present merchandise the same. Sorry, half the room is behind me here.
I didn't even know there were photos up here. Love that. All right.
So I didn't know until I turned to this side of the room too. My journey with the company was, thankfully, I inherited a couple of great pop-up store types that team members that were with the brand for about 6 months before me. So they'd been in the store and trying to sell on a temp basis, and they had a lot of friction with this, that, and the other thing that I learned of, and that informed. I then also went out to 3 other competitors that were doing made-to-measure suits from high to low to see not what they were doing to learn from, but what was challenging about the experience to change it up. And where most made-to-measure brands, if you've ever been in a suit, it's rows upon rows of little binders, of little swatches that all look the same, especially if you're new to the category. It's not a lot of fun. It can be, frankly, a little overwhelming. And then when you start to speak to the customizations, there's this built-in assumption that the tailor working with you assumes that you know everything about suits and what that's going to look like and in what combination. And you kind of go along with it and okay, yes, I don't want to look dumb. But it's okay to look dumb in an Indochino store. You can come in and we'll explain everything to you. We'll use the mannequins. There's some 24 mannequins in a typical store to show proof of concept, as well as all of the ranges. We use a curated collection of some 300 fabrics and then shirting, etc., all on display that help you see, touch, feel the panel of fabric instead of the swatch. And then we do invest in the PK, all supported by the big iMacs that are in the store. But just things we learned. We put a big table in. The original concept, I called it where tailor meets tech. So we had the big iMacs in the center of the store and the big work tables. And I envisioned sitting down with the client to work off of the screen and show them. And it turned out they didn't really want to sit there. They wanted to go and touch and feel and look at the mannequin, not the picture of the mannequin, of course. That made sense. And also, if you put a stool in a store, that your sales team are going to be sitting on it all the time and not get up to say hi to someone. So we took the tables out and we burned the stools. But actually, we gave them away. But environmentally conscious. But there was just learnings from that first evolution of stores that the journey was different than what we thought it would be, and how to evolve with time to capture those changes.
Speaking of environmental, kind of switch gears here for a minute. I do want to touch on sustainability. I think there's a whole session on that, but as we think about this rapid change that we're all under, and pilots and testing and sort of quick iteration, with especially a younger consumer that's more environmentally aware than ever before. How are we mitigating waste? And curious, Dean, if you've what challenges or learnings you've had there, and do you think brands really need to have a part in that, be responsible for mitigating waste and being environmentally aware?
Indeed. So there was a small roundtable yesterday, so some 10 people or so heard some of my thoughts on this. The conversation really started, though, from mechanicals and materials, and obviously very important piece, the starting block and energy consumption. But so much of what we do in retail creates waste needlessly. And some of it is not an expense to change, but a cost savings. And we were able to go back to the marketing department and tell them, you know what, you need to deliver instead of on a monthly cadence or quarterly cadence of 3 months of creative at a time, so we can produce it all at the same time and ship it all at the same time, reduce the packaging and the environmental impact of shipping to each of these stores across the country. They balked at it. Oh no, we can't possibly have holiday done 5 months in advance. Yeah, you can. And now when I fight for the cost savings over here, demonstrate the cost savings over here, now the CEO wants you to do it as well. So there's a buy-in on that side. Similarly, just other categories, when you're going through the mall and you see these elaborate window displays that in some cases need to be certified as destroyed. So shipped back somewhere to then be destroyed versus in any way reused, sold off to somebody that would appreciate it as an art piece, whatever it might be. And then also many categories that have the displayers for center aisles and end caps and the rotation of them, that every month coming out and going in and out and going in. And back to the marketing department, I think we all have a responsibility to hold our marketing teams more accountable for what they're creating to create excitement, what they're delivering to our brands to create excitement. So another pet peeve of mine, sorry, just to say.
Yeah. Kirby, I mean, EV, it's built in, right? Are you guys walking the walk, talking the talk? Do you think it's important? Do your consumers care?
I think everyone knows our consumers care. I think everyone in this room should care. We are looking to be net zero by 2050, and for an organization like BP, it's a monumental task.
Yeah.
When that comes
Big
down
shift.
yeah, exactly. Just like our strategy, I mean, everything from the top down needed to be looked at. When we talk about our retail stores, obviously we're doing kind of the low-hanging fruit where you can do it quickly in every single site, about efficiency, material selection, trying to reduce waste and packaging, trying to reduce printed pause and promotions in store, lean into digital where it makes sense. But one of the other interesting ways we're looking at it is how do we utilize our network to be more sustainable? So 22,000 retail outlets around the world just in our traditional business. That's not even our EV side. So as we look at, okay, economies of scale, not just in efficiencies of sourcing and procurement and maintenance, but what other brand partners or retailers could we work with to, you know, have them have a more cyclical system? When we talk about the availability of recycling in a lot of countries, a lot of communities, even states in the U.S., how could BP utilize our existing footprint, our existing real estate to help build some of those systems and fill some of the gaps that exist in very real time? So looking at it kind of the micro level of site by site, but also more systematically.
Yeah, you mentioned brand partners, and I think we were chatting a little bit offline around kind of brand partnerships and how that can, I think, flex and change a little bit, or how it is really flexing and changing. We're seeing a lot of, especially in this viral age, right? We're seeing, no pun intended, there's a lot of like really fun, very surprising, kind of delightful collabs, and people are really, latching on to that, but they're sort of fleeting, and like maybe they're really there for the collab, not your brand. So how do you maybe see the idea of brand partnerships moving forward? How can two brands really coexist in a space, lift each other up, versus just being, I think kind of the worst is when more legacy brand feels like a vehicle to some sort of other trendy brand versus like a true partnership that lifts both. Curious if this has come up in your work or anything you're thinking about. I'm just seeing it a lot these days, this idea of partnership and these like really fleeting, trendy collaborations.
Yeah, we're not doing a lot in that space, but it has to be authentic.
Mm-hmm.
I was remembering my days at Marriott, where we it never got anywhere, but we wanted to partner with IKEA to work on kitchens for the residents in brand. So it was just like a partnership that naturally made a lot of sense. IKEA does a great job from a renovation perspective that allows you to change kitchens after several years. So there was just a lot of natural elements that worked between the two brands, and same values, same philosophy. Anything from design philosophy, but also how they treat their employees. And so for me, it just has to be authentic and natural. And you can tell when it's forced and when it's not, I think.
Our partnerships are more limited, but we're a big supporter of the NBA draft day. So a lot of the athletes on draft day were wearing Indochino, not the sequin suit, that was not ours. But the balance were predominantly ours, and it's been a great partnership because obviously these are guys that, for the most part, need made to measure. They're 6'7", they're 7 feet tall, so they don't fit off the rack, and they're looking for something a little bit more flash, a little bit more fun for what is a really important day for them. So that partnership's been great. We've tested working with athletes before to create collections, and at the end of the day, while it was fun marketing in store, it didn't translate to a higher demand. Someone liked it or they didn't like it, whether someone's name was on it or not. So for us, it's not as much of an opportunity, but certainly on the marketing side, there's a lot of plays that we've done that have got the eyeballs and in turn the engagement.
Yeah, great.
We lean really heavily into partnerships and in a variety of different ways. And I think when we're evaluating different brand partners, we kind of have to do two tasks. One is figure out what kind of partnership are you looking for. So we do partnerships with other brands to leverage their real estate or where they're meeting their customers, and likewise other brands to us. We also look at product activations with different brands through our sponsorship team, and how is that kind of bringing some different perceptions to our brand as well. The other interesting one is what we refer to as user demand. So for our EV charging business, we're partnering with the brands like Uber drivers that are driving EVs need to charge their car far more throughout the day than our traditional customers. So we'll partner with Uber. They will bring us a consolidated group of their customers to our site. We will have dedicated charging bays for them. So it's really looking at kind of how you want that partnership to deliver your business goals. And along those lines, also just evaluating brand partners is so important. understanding that your strategies are in the same place, you have the same appetite to do the same activities. I think it's really easy to fall into that trap where you find a brand that looks shiny and exciting and you just want to get their logo somewhere in your store, and then you realize that their pace is completely different or their appetite for risk is entirely different from your organization. That's when you start to see partnerships that are potentially short-lived versus those really long-term strategic partnerships that are going to help both brands get in the right direction and achieve goals.
Yeah. I think along those lines, the idea of innovating, creating, brand extension, whether it's through partnerships, through new service offerings, into new markets, like how are you guys managing, we think about like sort of the one-off niche brand extension to we're going to do a completely different format or a pop-up or something fun, buzzy, whatever, to then more scalable innovation, like taking learnings from something that is very one-off niche, but then translating that into something that you can really scale and grow. I don't know if you've kind of dabbled in that, what your thoughts are, one-off versus kind of a bigger pilot, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we are looking at a million different things all at once. I mean, the sky's really the limit in terms of what types of retail our business can evolve into. Focus is really, really critical. So a lot of executives have what I like to call shiny object syndrome. So you've all gotten those emails or texts with the photo saying, are we doing this? When is this going to be in our sites?
I saw this cool thing.
Exactly. Like, it's just text after text after text. For me, it's canopies over EV chargers. I don't know how many pictures I get of other brands and what they're doing. But it's really important to understand kind of what is the North Star you're setting for your brand and your product. There will always be a backlog of things to test and pilot, but you need to understand kind of what your, again, back to appetite. What's your company's appetite and focus? What are the things that you really know you want to scale in the direction you want to go? And then what are the peripherals that you can use as test and learn? So we all want to test those kind of really exciting items. It's about how do you do it in a controlled and lower risk way at a smaller scale? Learn from it. Even if it fails, as long as you're learning something as a brand, that's really all that matters. So we test a lot of things in a lot of different ways. Sometimes we'll test them as unbranded concepts so that we're truly testing the function of the experience, the setup of the store, the construction, how long it takes us to get there, without any association with any of our brands, see how it goes, and then we'll adjust, tweak, and then if we're ready to scale up, that's when we start testing the branded versions. Sometimes there are changes in how things work, and we just need to learn and pivot from there.
Love that, ghost mode.
Ghost mode, yeah. It's funny because coming from the brand and design team, it makes other people in our team very nervous when I'm like, don't brand it. They're like, is everything okay? Are you changing the brand? What's going on? But it's amazing how much freedom it kind of gives you to really get creative and try some new things.
Yeah. Do you guys so you've got your lounges, you've got, a number of formats with Capital One. Are you doing more, I guess, like, what does your scale or kind of growth look like versus one-offs? Like, are you in key urban markets and you're going to do like this one big moment and then kind of...
Yeah, so it ties to what I was talking about at the beginning. I think we are now shifting into the mentality of like less is more, but those one-off experiences need to be truly impactful. So if you think about in the old days in a urban market where you have 10 branches, the reality is that today if we do one amazing experience, and customers still have access to a person that they can talk to every once in a while with a financial need, that solves our problem. So it's a great strategy from a real estate perspective, but also allows us to deliver a much more interesting experience. And we are starting to look at other formats, pop-ups, smaller footprint formats, but we're very early on in that process.
Yeah. I know this sort of like hub and spoke model has been around for a while, but you think about it, putting all your sort of eggs into one basket with like a flagship experience. Your customer comes in, they have this, wonderful experience with the brand, and then they go to their local branch, and it's like, wah, wah. And I do think I mean, we were talking about the disparity of that sort of off stage earlier, and like, what is that balance? And I think as retailers, like, obviously you want to dial up as much as you possibly can in like a flagship moment, but yeah, how do you manage that sort of disparity for your customer with some of your smaller footprints?
Yeah, I think for me, because I've had experience with a few big global brands. It's where is the brand in the life cycle. I remember with Marriott. Marriott has 30 brands. Actually, now I think 31, 32. But not each brand is treated equally. And some brands need to be in a maintenance mode because they're in their life cycle. Customers know the brand, they feel very comfortable with the brand is performing well. And then other brands need that consistency, that really recognizable space. And the design team for those brands is really focused on really creating a branded experience that is super consistent around the world. So it's all about, for me, like when and how is the brand doing, and driving the right strategy at that point in time.
Cool. I think we're almost at time here. I'd like to close by sort of playing devil's advocate, if you will. We've talked a lot about future proofing, looking to the future, future. And I'm curious if you guys have thoughts around like, what is the break point in flexibility, future proofing, being fluid? Is there actually a moment where constantly planning for the future starts to be really obstructive to the current physical experience? Like, if we're always planning for the future, are your customers getting the best of your brand today? Or is it sort of watered down because you're trying to do everything like all at once? Is there a moment to just live in the present? Just kind of curious if got any thoughts there.
I hadn't come to the table with any thoughts, but interesting. Definitely, we all fall into a place where many of us, sorry, maybe not all, better among us, fall into a place where we're investing both time and money in what's next or the flashiest thing among our group, and neglecting, and sometimes the most profitable of units that are in the secondary and tertiary markets. And as we try and find time and investment for those, we sometimes see those second and tertiary stores start to fail because they've not gotten the time, that we're not focused on the present and the needs of the business as much as we need to. It's certainly an area where we're constantly revisiting the store that is oldest in the fleet to make sure it has everything that the newest showroom has in the fleet, in the way of display, marketing materials, etc. We don't want to fall behind in any of our doors. That said, we have some doors that still need work, but our goal is to try and revisit, try not to lose track of where we are while looking to the future.
Yeah, I think even around just like really tangible design, right? Like we often have clients that are planning so far into the future that everything needs to be so modular, so flexible, that we're down to like stripping out design for the sake of modularity and future proofing, where I'm like, man, yes, this is going to be easy to replace in a year just like you want, but for that year this isn't going to be that great, you guys. So I do think there's a balance that I don't have the answers of what that balance is, but I think just something to think about, and like a caution as we all look to the future. But I don't know, any closing thoughts? Or Jason's giving me the eyes, so.
Am I? Oh, I didn't realize. No, I don't think I was. I mean, did you want to take any questions from the audience? We might have room for one or two,
Sure.
or
Yeah.
if there is any. Otherwise, you can close with your closing thoughts. No? Did you have any closing thoughts? Yeah.
Do I have any closing thoughts? Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it's been a great discussion. Super diverse industries that I always appreciate being on a panel with people from lots of different sectors. I always find it really interesting how actually similar all of our day-to-day workflows are. But yeah, I mean, I think as we're all looking to figure out what the future holds and how do we future-proof, I think really just paying attention to like what your customer actually needs and wants. And like there's such an emotional aspect to retail that I think sometimes we get lost in all the logistics. So that's what I'm always trying to think of is, what are people like really wanting and needing deep down? So
I do have a question just quickly, just to get some quick thoughts from everybody. I mean, you guys are consumers as well as, doing your jobs as well, and you have retail experiences that you wander into. What's an aspiring future for you? What are the experiences that you want to walk into personally and be really enthralled by as you think about an exciting retail future?
Take this out. I hope that still the people are at the center of the experience, that our teams are front and center and they're supported by digital, not leading with digital. I think we've all gone to those restaurants where they're ordering off the iPad for you as you go, and not once did they make eye contact with you because they were just focused on finding the right button to push. And we've been doing that for years, and it does. Retail is being threatened by that as well. That same technology, disconnecting us from the people that we're there to serve. So I'm hoping the future has the person at the center of every transaction.
Yeah, I could not agree with that more. It's what I said at the beginning. Like we've done a lot of research, and especially in the younger generation, the need for humanity and human connection is most critical than ever. So I think we can play a role in creating spaces that really enable those human connections.
yeah.
I mean, as a consumer myself, I mean, I think finding the right places for the human connection is really important. Also, making sure that the digital journey, whether it's before they come to your store or after, as Dean said, in a cyclical motion, really understanding how they behave across that. Because whether it is footsteps in a store or clicks on your website, it's a journey, and having consistency throughout that is always really great to me. So when I see the same visual cues from a brand on their app or on their website in store, it tells me that that brand really does care about how I'm behaving as a customer and how I'm interacting with them, as opposed to just throwing shiny new things kind of in front of me, hoping that one of them sticks. So for me, it's about really consistency that brands can deliver throughout the entire journey.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for throwing your thoughts at this morning, and Amanda for leading the discussion. Thank you.